The evening before Stage 5, the heavens opened as an autumn cold front swept through the Western Cape. Steady, soaking rains saturated the fertile Elgin soils and poured in rivulets off every smooth surface. With a muddy trek through the orchards linking the race with the foot of the climbs, the teams knew that they would face a wet and wild start to the day. Brake pads and drivetrains would in particular take a pounding, though pivots, suspension stanchions and the riders' bodies would suffer too on the race to Lourensford. Lourensford Wine Estate is one of South Africa's oldest farms. Founded 320 years ago, it is now one of the country's premier wine, fruit and cut flower producers. It is also the backdrop for international film shoots, which is no surprise when one looks up at the spectacular jagged ridgelines which surround the estate on three sides. Situated in a bowl within the Helderberg, Jonkershoek and Hottentots Holland Mountains, it is also a magnet for precipitation. Those staying in the race village would have to make a plan to cope with the lush but soggy lawns. For the teams in the 2023 Absa Cape Epic, Lourensford would be home for 2 nights, so getting comfortable would be well advised. Especially after 5 days of discomfort on the bike. The flat-out racing in the UCI men's category made it virtually impossible to relax for a moment. And there was definitely no taking it easy during Stage 4, the mid-race time trial. Toyota Specialized 91 powered through the 47-kilometre course, taking the fight to ORBEA Leatt Speed Company after the heated post-3 stage comments by Lukas Baum. The Germans posted the second fastest time on the stage, making up time on the men in yellow. Worryingly for SCOTT-SRAM, Nino, Schurter and Andri Frischknecht conceded just over 2 minutes on the stage. This left the general classification poised for a fiercely contested final 3 days. In the CM.com UCI women's race, the team in third on the general classification performed best on Stage 4. Vera and Kim Lecourt of efficient Infiniti Insure stormed through the stage, shaking off a crash by Loza to post the fastest time. The women in orange, Amy Wakefield and Candice Lill, were second on the day as they gained more time on NinetyOne-Songo-Specialized. Sofia Gomez Villafane and Katerina Nash conceded 5 minutes and 13 seconds to the stage winners. This signaled that while the defending champion and her Czech partner were fading, the women in red were becoming a threat for second overall, and possibly the lead too. Going into Stage 5, this was how the UCI category's general classifications were shaping up. Stage 5 was also the Queen stage of the race. Starting in Oak Valley, it headed east towards Dierkop before ascending Groenlandberg from the alternative approach. The route then descended in a westerly direction, looping around the back of the Ekenhof Dam and ascending to the A to Z trails towards the Gantu Pass. The portage took the teams into the Helderberg Basin before continuing west along Vergelegen and on to the finish at Lourensford Wine Estate. In total, Stage 5 featured 102 kilometres of racing and 2,450 metres of climbing. Ahead of what was set to be the toughest day of the race, the UCI men knew they would be facing a stern test, but that it would also provide excellent opportunities.
The conditions are pretty special today. I think we'll start off, really in the wet, and it sounds, weather prediction shows that it might, clear up as we head over to Somerset West side, but. It's definitely going to throw another spanner in the works for today on the Queen stage, and it'll definitely make it a tougher day out there.
Stage 5. This is the epic right here. This is the hardest day, hardest conditions, so I think everybody's buckling up for the most testing day on the bike, and it'll be an adventure.
Yeah, today is Groenlandberg Day. I think anyone who's done the Epic a couple times has had this mountain thrown at them. It's a beast in the dry, in the wet maybe even more. But today is going to be a day of, conserving equipment as well. Just have to ride smart and good line choices. It's it's going to be fun. I mean, you can't always have it hot and dusty at Epic.
Departing Oak Valley, those who had managed to stay dry ahead of the start were virtually instantaneously wet and splattered with mud. The soggy fields would require significant recovery time after the racer's visit, but fortunately the watering they received would aid in that process. For the riders, that was not a concern. What was, however, was the muddy roads which lay ahead and the dangers which lurked in the muddy puddles. In the CM.com UCI women's competition, the riders were approaching the Queen stage with a mixture of excitement and trepidation.
Well, today's the Queen stage. It's always going to be the most epic stage. We've had some rain overnight as well, which will make it even more interesting. It's a big day, and I think for everyone wants to make a stamp on this day. It's just going to be fun.
We are at the Queen stage of the Cape Epic, hardest stage and the one with the craziest weather so far. So we're at 3 days to go, and I think today's going to be about making sure you don't make mistakes, because in these conditions a mistake could really add a lot of time.
Rolling off the start line and heading out of Oak Valley for the final time in the 2023 Absa Cape Epic, the women eased into the stage. The opening kilometres through the orchards of the host estate featured a false flat leading towards the day's significant climbs. With challenges to come, there was no need to rush to force a split. The terrain and the riders' form would soon separate the best from the rest, and the contenders for stage victory from those who were riding to survive. The muddy tracks between the orchards made for tense and difficult going in the early kilometres. Even the world's best mountain bikers had to commit their absolute focus to the road ahead. Any twitch in the group or an unexpected camber could have brought a rider or a whole swathe of the peloton down. The single tracks were no less treacherous, especially the wooden bridges across the swollen streams. On one such stretch, Carlos Arroyo of Pedregal 7C Economy went down hard. Despite the obvious severity of his crash, the Costa Rican champion got back up and finished the stage alongside his Colombian partner Luis Meyer. With the field strung out by the single tracks and with everyone on edge, the group began to split on the ascent of Tilkop. Each team rode to their level, keeping up or dropping back as their exhausted legs dictated what they were capable of. Frayed nerves made the task of staying upright and in touch even harder. As the UCI men climbed into the mist, the helicopters covering the race turned away. Unable to fly into the weather, the burden of covering the action had to be borne by Stefan Sam and Thomas Ditch on the Bulls Media e-bikes. Like wraiths, they all disappeared into the clouds. The onboard cameras on the e-bikes captured the brutality of the conditions on Groenlandberg. At times the road was a river, and at others the river was the road. Torrents of water flowed downhill, making the going as difficult as any mountain bike race can be. The most physically capable team on Groenlandberg was the ORBEA Leatt Speed Company squad. Lukas, Baum and Georg accelerated away from their rivals on the race's most famous climb, in a move that will perhaps become the second chapter in the combination's epic legend. Behind, SCOTT-SRAM and Toyota Specialized 91 responded as best they could. The leaders and the third-place general classification team were joined in their pursuit by Singer Racing. Yet, despite their strength in numbers, they were unable to reel in the flying Germans. Baum and Egger summited the mythical Green Mountain with an indeterminate lead. The only fact that was known was that the chasers could not see the 2022 champions up ahead. Out of sight, out of mind. Or in mountain biking, out of sight is full panic behind. Up front, ORBEA Leatt Speed Company were remarkably calm. Even a crash for Baum could not disrupt their single-minded focus. The persistently wet conditions and soaking the riders and their equipment received was taking its toll. Nino Schurter endured technical issues during the stage, which were likely caused by the submersion his bike's electronics suffered. The relentlessly rocky terrain did not help either, and brake pads were worn thin, as were senses of humour. Now SCOTT-SRAM, Toyota Specialized 91 and Singer Racing knew exactly what they needed to do. The question was if they'd be able to chase ORBEA Leatt Speed Company down. Chris Blevins looked harrowed by the wild conditions. Only the experienced Simon Stibjan and his partner Martin Fry were enjoying the experience. Having started the stage in 39th position on general classification, behind the leading two NTT Masters teams, as well as the amateur category white jersey wearers, the Singer Racing squad were enjoying their first good day of the race. Without the pressure of having to chase ORBEA Leatt Speed Company, they could battle for a good stage result with Schurter, Andri, Frischknecht, Blevins and Matt Beers. By the halfway point of the stage, on the shores of the Eikenhof Dam, Baum and Egger held a 1 minute and 30-second lead over the chasers. In the CM.com UCI women's race, the drama and crashes started even earlier than they had in the men's. The muddy farm roads had been churned to slop by the 100 mountain bikers that had powered across them 5 minutes before. Unexpectedly cavernous puddles which appeared innocuous from afar dragged the unsuspecting into their muddy depths. While Sofia Villafane was aiding Katerina Nash with a helping hand, Vera was caught out by the mud. She got bogged down and then bumped over by one of the Candice riders. In the crash, Lossa re-broke the shoe which had required duct tape repairs on stage 1. Now proficient at the art of running repairs, the Namibian taped it up rapidly. Having passed a chase back during her pursuit of the lead group, Lossa was caught up in another crash just moments later. Best performances, Jolandi de Villiers lost control on the slick surface and forced the efficient Infiniti Insure rider off the road and into a bush. This hardly interrupted her flow though. Having regained contact with her rivals and with E4.net SeattleCoffeeCo having attacked, Lossa and Kim Lecourt pounced. The women in the red Absa African jerseys powered away from NinetyOne-Songo-Specialized and Candice to join the race leaders. They did not keep Amy Wakefield and Candice Lill company for long though. Realizing that Wakefield was struggling, the efficient Infiniti Insure team surged again. The acceleration took them clear and soon they were climbing out of sight. Behind, Wakefield had the assistance of Lill to keep her climbing at the good pace. The speed she maintained was enough to ensure they kept building on their lead over their chasers, while stabilizing their losses to the women up the road. Greta Steinberg and Monica Calderon meanwhile were enjoying their best day of the race thus far. The Candice team summited Groenlandsberg alongside Gomez, Villafane and Nash. The women in fourth on the general classification standings then pushed on over the next 25 kilometres, cementing their third place on the trails by the halfway mark of the stage. NinetyOne-Songo-Specialized challenge for a podium spot on the day faded through the second phase of the course. Ahead of them were the orange jerseys of the overall race leaders. Wakefield and Lill were moving quickly through the last of the Elgin trails, but not quickly enough to close in on the leaders. At the front of the race, efficient Infiniti Insure were forging on. Lossa and Lecourt held a 1 minute and 39-second lead heading into the second half of the stage. Having descended into the Helderberg Basin, ORBEA Leatt Speed Company were theoretically at a disadvantage. But that is when Lukas, Baum and Georg thrived most. They maintained a ferocious speed and threw down the gauntlet to SCOTT-SRAM, Toyota Specialized 91 and Singer Racing. There the group should hypothetically have held the advantage over the team ahead. With a 5-powered Matt Beers to lead the chase, Nino, Schurter, Andri, Frischknecht and Chris Blevins were on the rivet and all in on the pursuit. The pack swapped turns, racing head down. Only Simon Stibjan and Martin Fry declined to assist in order not to affect the general classification battle. The smart money would have been on the trio of teams making the catch. But ORBEA Leatt Speed Company do not play by the usual odds. Baum and Egger almost miraculously managed not only to hold off the chasers, but to also extend their advantage. By the time they exited Frischknecht and entered the home stretch on Lourensford Wine Estate, their lead was 2 minutes and 32 seconds. They might have perhaps felt they'd done enough, but they could not be sure. So Baum and Egger charged around the final bend and drove to the line to maximise their gains. Crossing the line, they collapsed in exhaustion and then began the wait to see if they'd done enough to earn yellow. Out on the course, Singer Racing attacked their erstwhile companions in the closing kilometre and surged home in second. The result was by far and away Steve John and Fry's best of the week. SCOTT-SRAM crossed the line third, 20 seconds ahead of an exhausted Blevins and Beers. The win was ORBEA Leatt Speed Company's first of the 2023 Absa Cape Epic. And it earned them the yellow Civitas jerseys, which they'll wear during a stage for the first time on stage 6. Baum and Egger's winning margin on the stage was 2 minutes and 32 seconds. Schurter and Frischknecht conceded 2 minutes and 40 seconds to the stage winners. ORBEA Leatt Speed Company will start stage 6 with a 1 minute and 29 second advantage over SCOTT-SRAM.
Yeah, it was not really planned to attack on that part of the climb. For me, it was rather a fight against gravity, or rather not to fall over. Then towards the end, I think on the last quarter, Georg passed me with a speed which was almost too fast for me, but I tried to follow him, and then we risked a bit in the downhill section and created a gap. And from then on, it was clear that we had to keep pushing and had to keep the gap we created, because we worked so hard the last days, and I think either you wear them down over the time, or you have the opportunity to create a gap in the early stage and then extending it. But it was a fight against the elements. Super rough today with water coming towards us. A little running or riding over creeks and diving even. I never dove or went underwater while cycling, so it was incredible. I just want to go to the camp and have a nap now.
Yeah, it was a pretty tough stage today. It was the Queen stage, but also the conditions were pretty tough for us riders, but especially also for the bike. There was so much puddles and mud holes, and was quite crazy. And I also didn't have the best day. Had not the best legs up Groenlandberg, and had an issue on my bike that made it even more harder. So I struggled a bit today, but it's race is not over. A lot of things can still happen.
Climbing towards the Gantu Pass portage, efficient Infiniti Insure maintained their pace through the snaking A to Z trails. Some of the Elgin Plateau's oldest and best known tracks, they are ideal in the wet when rain hardens their normally sandy surfaces to a dense grit. As fun as the A to Z are to race, they're all uphill. For Amy Wakefield, the single tracks offered no respite. Only the linking gravel roads provided her the opportunity to take hold of Candice Lill's pocket and receive a tow. Teamwork was thus the name of the day. Up front between Vera and Kim Lecourt, teamwork was swapping turns on the front, racing in the most efficient and fastest way possible through the single tracks and undulations of idiom wines and into Vergelegen. For the other women's teams, cooperation meant a helping hand or a pocket offered by the fresher rider to the struggler. In pairs racing at the Absa Cape Epic, each squad is only as strong as their weakest link. The time on each stage is determined by the second rider across the line, and team members are penalised for being more than 2 minutes apart. Staying in sync, nursing each other through the lows and capitalising on the highs is the only way to go. This is exactly what efficient Infiniti Insure did. Having broken the back of the Queen Stage beast, they entered Lourensford and could hear the announcer's voice booming out from the finish line. Spurred on, they raced home to claim their third stage victory at the 2023 Absa Cape Epic. Wakefield and Lill crossed the line second, conceding time, but their buffer is enough for that not to be of concern just yet. Greta Steinberg and Monica Calderon finished third, completing their best stage of the race thus far. Loza and Lecourt's elation on the podium was evident, as was Wakefield and Lill's, as they were awarded another fresh pair of CM.com orange Chivita jerseys. Efficient Infiniti Insure's winning time was 5 hours, 23 minutes and 46 seconds, 20 minutes faster than NinetyOne-Songo-Specialized. That meant that Lourensford and Leatt leapfrogged Sofia, Villafane and Katerina Nash into second.
Wow, I mean, yeah, it's
Queen stage.
Yeah, it's the Queen stage. I mean, yeah, people think we're good on short courses, but I think we just keep on proving people wrong and actually proving ourselves wrong. We're just focusing on ourselves and doing our own race and putting no pressure, and I guess it's just working so far.
Yeah, I was in a very dark place every minute of today. I don't know, my legs, I think this 2 weeks and the last 3 weeks have just sort of caught up with me a bit, but yeah, we just keep taking it day by day, and fortunately I have an absolutely incredible partner who just, yeah, helped me out there. She was always positive and cheering me on. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah, it's a really big thing. I mean, this is our first Cape Epic, so I think this makes it even more special. And I mean, we really fight hard for it because we had some bad luck, and also Monica crashed quite hard. So, but we still kept going, and we never gave up. And I think this paid off today.
What a day, what a race. The Queen stage, and there's every time to come good. It's on the Queen stage, going up into the mountains, up the little city.
That's something, I've never in my life have I checked stuff like that on a film like that. It was insane. It's exactly why we come to Epic.
That was so wet. We were riding in rivers. That was just the wettest and dirtiest I've ever been.
After the brutal Queen stage, Playday hints at relief. But it's a misnomer. Stage 6 is filled with steep climbs and sweeping descents. Taking place entirely within the boundaries of the vast Lourensford Estate, it features a 78-kilometre route with 2,300 metres of climbing. Only the strongest will thrive on the single-track heavy course. The day's highlights for those with the energy reserves to enjoy them are Roller Coaster, Drix Drag, Hypermotion Zululand and Young Bafana. The Toyota Tough Trail for the penultimate stage is Graveyard, one of the most technical tracks on the farm.